This is the newsroom for today, Tuesday, December 1, 2020. We're broadcasting to you on E1 Star TV, NTN, and Tarsi TV in particular. In the headlines, Minister of Labour Joseph Hamilton sounds warning to Aurora Gold Mines over its plans to hand over 117 employees to its subcontractor, Sino Hydro.
I would not allow no set of companies to come into this country and set up back plantations here.
After a 4-year wait, Sleeping International Hotel is granted its casino license. The Guyana Police Force is conducting a trial run of its new traffic arrangements on the east bank of Demerara. The Chief Justice Roxanne George will decide the fate of the 2020 election petitions on January 18. And in sport, Guyana Olympic Association affiliates receive COVID-19 assistance and test side is in good place, says West Indies head coach Phil Simmons. With the news, I'm Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for joining us. We start off by telling you that hundreds of Guyanese workers at Aurora Gold Mines in Region 7 have received the assurance of Labour Minister Joseph Hamilton that their rights will be protected. During a tour of the mining operations on Monday, Minister Hamilton raised several issues with the Chinese management, among which is the transfer of more than 100 workers to a subcontractor. Kurt Campbell reports.
Minister of Labour Joseph Hamilton, during a tour of Aurora Gold Mines on Monday, had cause to warn the new Chinese-led management, Shijing Mining, over attempts to hand over some 117 workers to its Chinese subcontractor, Sino Hydro. The minister told the employees that he had already spoke to management about the issue and was informed that the letter to which he refers was wrongly worded. Hamilton said, notwithstanding the assurance that the employees would be consulted properly for a legal transfer, it was still distasteful and offensive that in 2020 someone would conceive the thought that it can hand over workers.
Just to make this clear, you're not property of AGM. AGM can't hand you over to somebody. I find it so offensive and distasteful just for somebody to conceive that thought in 2020, that they could come to this country and have employees and they're handing them over to some other person. I will say that to them. So, however that went, if they continue with it, then I will take other steps because that is breaking the law.
The newsroom spoke with Compliance Director Peter Benny, who has been working with AGM for several years, even before it changed hands from Canadian to Chinese management. He explained that the 117 employees up for transfer are persons who were rehired by the company on a 3-month contract. Those contracts come to an end in December 2020 and January 2021.
So the company did not transfer them. The company will wait until their contract expires. The 3 months. And some of them, because they came in September, their contract will expire in December. Those who came in October, their contract will expire in January.
Hamilton, who discussed a range of other issues with both employees and management, said the government expects that when foreign investors come to Guyana and are facilitated to invest and make profits from their investments, they must also respect the rights of workers. Hamilton said he will continue to press foreign companies, especially in the mining and oil and gas sectors, to ensure equal pay for equal work, where locals and expatriates are paid alike.
And this is my first visit here. I can assure you it will not be the last. Because, as I have said when I started, I would not allow no set of companies to come into this country and set up back plantations here. I have said this to mining companies, I have said this to the oil and gas companies. And so those are my positions.
Hamilton was also strong in his call for workers to be represented by a union or worker representative organization and called on AGM to facilitate this. But Benny has said there is a union at AGM, the National Mine Workers Union, of which 90 employees of the more than 300 workers are members. The minister also raised the issue of overtime pay, to which Benny assured that workers are paid according to the law.
We don't work 40 hours a day. 40 hours is other companies. We work 12 hours a day, 28 days straight, 14 days off. After 8 hours, employees are paid time and a half, Monday to Friday. On Saturday, they're paid time and a half for all hours on Saturday. On Sundays, they're paid double for all hours on Sunday and holidays. Right? And even employees who are home on they turn around and it's a holiday, they get 8 hours pay. So that farther out thing that was in discussion does not relate to us.
Hamilton told the workers that Monday's visit was his first, but it will not be his last. Kurt Campbell, Newsroom.
With numerous complaints from commuters using the East Bank Demerara Road, the Guyana Police Force is hoping to implement new arrangements which will ease the buildup of traffic, especially during the morning and afternoon peak hours. The traffic situation on the East Bank and West Bank of Demerara has worsened over the past few months, and with the upcoming Christmas holidays, where it is expected that there will be an increase in traffic, the police force will also be placing ranks at various points along the road to direct traffic. Isnel Patwa tells us more.
One of the new traffic arrangements along the East Bank of Demerara includes opening a new lane from Ramp Road, Ruimveldt to the Demerara Harbour Bridge. While this is not a concrete decision, markings on the western lane indicate only commuters heading over the bridge will use this new lane. The other arrangements include no undertaking from Diamond to Georgetown. This new measure, along with traffic cones placed along the roadway, is to prevent accidents with pedal cyclists and pedestrians. Additionally, with heavy traffic coming out of Eccles, drivers from this area will only use the eastern lane, so there will be no crossover to the western lane heading towards Georgetown. Assistant Police Commissioner Clifton Hicken, who is heading the operation, spoke with the newsroom via telephone interview on Tuesday about these new arrangements.
What we did yesterday was a trial run to see how we can help to bring the traffic out of town to take in a southern direction of the bank. I think we had 90% completion in terms of vehicle proceeding north in the morning. So the reverse in terms of vehicles moving from south to north is a work in progress. It is not concrete yet. We are still doing some tweaking as we speak.
Meanwhile, Traffic Chief Ramesh Ashram also told the newsroom that the regular 3-lane traffic arrangement from the Harbour Bridge to Georgetown will not only be implemented in the mornings and the afternoons.
The morning is the same, but in the afternoon, if you observe it, as we get it built up, we activate the 3 lanes. If it works out, it will remain forever until we get more roads.
On Friday last, a new traffic arrangement implemented by the force led to a major backup of traffic on the East Bank and West Bank of Demerara, and commuters were stuck in the traffic for more than 3 hours. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isinella Patwo.
Now, 4 years after the first application and with $18 million lost, the Gaming Authority, now under new leadership, has granted Sleeping International Hotel its casino premises license and a casino operator's license. The doors to the Church Street Georgetown Casino opened on Tuesday. The hotel owner, Clifton Backus, told the newsroom that the license was granted by the Gaming Authority on Monday after a new application was made to the board. The board of the Gaming Authority is headed by former Minister under the People's Progressive Party Civic Government, Yesu Persaud. According to Backus, the casino will employ approximately 300 persons, but due to COVID-19, the first batch of 150 persons will be taken on board. The businessman reiterated that the granting of the license is a burden off his shoulders, and he's elated that the investment has finally materialized. Backus noted that the casino will be opened in keeping with the national COVID-19 curfew. In December 2019, after a 3-year-long battle before the High Court, Justice Fidela Corbin had ordered that the Gaming Authority process and consider the application of Sleeping International Hotel. This was to be done on or before February 28, 2020, but it never materialized given the fact that Guyana was heading to the polls on March 2. When the newsroom returns, the Chief Justice Roxanne George will decide the fate of the 2020 elections petitions on January 18, and the Education Ministry reveals that over 2,000 children have not returned to school. Stay tuned. This is the newsroom. Chief Justice Roxanne George will make several important determinations on January 18, 2021 that will decide the fate of 2 elections petitions filed by the APNU AFC coalition. Among those decisions is whether to strike out the petition as is being requested by Attorney General Anil Nandlal. Kurt Campbell reports.
After more than 1 month, the case management conference on the 2 APNU AFC election petition wrapped up on Tuesday in Guyana's High Court. Chief Justice Roxanne George intends to rule on the preliminary arguments of defective service and whether former President David Granger is a necessary party on January 18, 2021. The first case management hearing was held on October 22, 2020, with 3 subsequent hearings on November 24, November 30, and December 1, 2020. Justice George will ultimately have to rule on an application made by Attorney General Alan Nandlal and supported by Attorney for Vice President Bar Jagdeo to strike out the elections petition. This is the same petition that the Chief Justice had indicated on October 22nd that she intended to have a full-blown trial for. A date for the commencement of trial will only be set after these preliminary issues are finalized. The Chief Justice will spend the next 48 days reviewing submissions made by several lawyers before she rules on January 18. She has described the case management hearings as an enriching experience.
Good. So we've come to the end of the submissions. They're quite lengthy. And so, just a minute, please. All right, so I'll fix 1:30 on January 18 to give the decision. So thank you very much, and I look forward to receiving Mr. Jeremy's submissions if he finds it necessary.
Yes, my lady.
Thank you very much, Counsel. This has been an enriching experience. Thank you.
During Tuesday's hearing, Trinidadian Senior Counsel John Jeremy told Guyana's High Court that the disputed contradiction in the date that former President David Granger was served a notice of presentation of the petition and his acknowledgement or return of service is not fraud but simply an error. He was making his presentation in direct response to arguments by his Trinidadian colleague, Senior Counsel Douglas Mendez, the attorney for Jagdeo. Mendez had told the court on Monday that the evidence in the date of service to Granger and his acknowledgement was contradictory and unreliable. Granger is believed to have been served on September 25, although he should have been served 5 business days after the petition was filed on September 15. Senior Counsel Jeremy acknowledged that the contradiction exists, but argues that it was an error in the writing of the date, insisting that Granger was served on September 24. Jeremy insisted that it was simply an error in writing the date, but could not say an error on whose part when asked by Chief Justice George.
What are we to do with the 25th day under the acknowledgement?
It was an error, my lady.
Error by whom?
In paragraph 9, she says that upon returning to David Granger, the second name respondent, I saw him sign and date the acknowledgement. I then took that acknowledgement to the Commissioner of Vote and exhibited it to my affidavit, but unfortunately did not pay attention to the date placed on the acknowledgement by the second name respondent. So she's given an explanation. Had I done so, I would have recognized that Mr. Granger had incorrectly dated the acknowledgement of service. I witnessed him sign it on the 24th of September and not the 25th. So that the evidence is there before you.
No, usually, Mr. Jeremy, if one is dating something and one has an incorrect date, one usually dates something the day before, not the day after. So if one is receiving something on the 24th, I say, well, you write the 23rd because you were writing the 23rd, for the whole day, the day before. But then to advance oneself to the next day and write the 25th does seem a bit strange.
The attorney doesn't believe that the contradiction in dates is a good enough basis to strike out the petition. But Attorney Mendez, in brief response, said he was not satisfied that Jeremy did enough to explain the contradiction and insisted that whatever evidence exists was unreliable. Nandlal also briefly responded to Granger's request to be removed as a respondent in the case, pointing out that there has been no explanation from petitioners on why they decided to name Mr. Granger as a respondent. Nandlal rejected the objection that Granger has been wrongfully named. He too said that he was not alleging fraud and perjury, but were making comments on the evidence presented. The APNU-AFC filed its first elections position 8820 on August 31st, 2020, officially challenging the outcome of the March 2nd elections and the recount exercise from which the People's Progressive Party emerged victorious. A second petition, 9920, was filed subsequently on September 15, also challenging the March polls. The petitioners are Claudia Thorne and Hester Boswit, both residents of Georgetown. Ultimately, the coalition wants the Supreme Court, after hearing its petition, to cancel the March 2nd polls, which saw it losing the seat of government, and order fresh polls within 90 days. The petitioners contend that the Chief Elections Officer was not required to use the data from the National Vote Recount to produce his elections report from which the results were declared. Kurt Campbell, Newsroom.
The Ministry of Health has procured 20,000 COVID-19 antigen tests, which will reduce testing time and also produce faster results. The Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, in Tuesday's COVID-19 update, said with this new testing method, hospitals will also return to some semblance of normalcy. With the current PCR test that is being administered, results take about 24 hours, but with the new antigen tests, the results will be available within 20 to 30 minutes. Health workers at the Georgetown Public Hospital began training on Tuesday on how to administer the test, while training will commence on Wednesday for healthcare workers at regional hospitals across the country.
In regards to testing, as of this week, we will start introducing antigen testing, which is different from PCR. PCR we regard as the gold standard, and when you take a swab from a patient, you'll have to send that swab to the laboratories. In this case, when you take the swab, you can perform the tests at the point where you're taking off the swab. And in some cases, these tests, depending on the type of test that you're using, they'll probably take about 20 minutes for you to do. In other cases, it might take a little bit longer. So what this helps us to do, it identifies the virus or fragments of the virus, and it allows us to get a better picture of what is happening with this patient rather than waiting for a 24-hour period, and then we'll get a result through PCR. We think this is going to help us to open up a lot of avenues. One, it's going to reduce testing time, and secondly, it would allow us to help the hospitals to return to some sense of normalcy. As of today, we have started training with the staff of the GPHC, and tomorrow we'll have training in the use of these antigen tests for all the other regions. And once we complete these trainings by Wednesday, the kits would be distributed when the participants come, so they will have kits to take back to their respective regions. We have so far procured enough kits that can last us for maybe a 3 to 4 month period, and we'll see how it works as we introduce this.
Now, over 2,000 children have not returned to school since its reopening on November 9, the Minister of Education, Priya Manichan, has revealed. Manichan, while delivering remarks on Saturday last at a Celebration Day event hosted by the First Assembly of God, Wortmanville Church, said there are many reasons for the children not returning to the classroom, including not having school uniforms and school supplies, not having transportation and money, fear of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the fact that many have entered the workforce. According to a press release from the ministry, Manichan said at beginning this week, she will be engaging churches, temples, masjid, and other religious bodies and organizations to help the state in determining where the students are and how they can be supported with completing their secondary education or accessing training in technical vocational education. The minister said the only other institutions in almost every community outside of schools are religious bodies, tushaus, and village councils, and for this reason, the ministry will be engaging those bodies for assistance to make sure children are not lost to education. Schools in Guyana reopened on November 9 for students writing CSEC and CAPE next year. Still ahead on the newsroom, the President Irfan Ali assures locals of a role in the oil and gas sector, and Guyana records 17 new COVID-19 cases. Stay tuned. This is the newsroom. President Irfan Ali says his government remains committed to ensuring that local businesses are optimally involved in the oil and gas sector. The head of state made this assertion during his address at the virtual Guyana Oil and Gas Summit Tuesday morning. Here's more from Kurt Campbell.
President Irfan Ali on Tuesday said that while the emergence of the oil and gas sector will result in an explosion of opportunities in Guyana, it will also require investment, technical skills and capacity on an unprecedented scale. The president, who was addressing the virtual Guyana Oil and Gas Summit, stated that while foreign direct investment is essential for capitalizing on the opportunities which the sector promises, it is also vital in building the capacity of the local sector.
Local firms must become bold and ambitious. They must think big and think international. They must embrace innovation and inventiveness if they are to compete effectively in the global economy.
The Oil and Gas Summit, he added, provides an opportunity to begin preparations for the new economy by highlighting the investment opportunities in Guyana. It also offers local investors the opportunity to establish synergies, build capacities, and forge strategic partnerships. The President commended CWC, Global Future Energy Limited, and the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry for their partnership in organizing the summit, which he acknowledged is an expression of confidence in Guyana's future.
I assure all that my government is supportive of investment, foreign and local. We are working to ensure an enabling environment to boost business in Guyana.
The virtual event will set the scene for the industry's development in 2021, where participants will be given the opportunity to meet with existing and new contacts, explore the latest policies and guidelines, and develop new solutions to advance projects in Guyana. Other speakers during the two-day summit included Minister of Natural Resources Vikram Bharat, Minister within the Ministry of Public Works Deodat Indar, and other government officials, members of the diplomatic community, representatives of the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and key stakeholders in both the local and international oil and gas sector. Kurt Campbell, Newsroom.
A toll-free mental health counseling hotline was launched on Monday to provide support for persons dealing with stress and other mental health issues as Guyana continues to battle the COVID-19 pandemic. The hotline was launched under the Mental Health Unit Safe Space program. It is expected that the same professional in-person counseling provided by the unit will now be administered via the telephone. Referrals to other health care as well as social services will also be done through the hotline. Isnel Patwa tells us more.
The 655-SAFE or 655-7233 hotline launched on Monday will provide 24/7 counseling services to persons in need all across Guyana. The hotline was launched under the Mental Health Unit Safe Space program. Head of the Mental Health Unit, Dr. Util Thomas, stated that the effects of COVID-19 have only increased the need for mental health services. According to a research done by the University of Oxford and the Oxford Biomedical Research Centre, 1 in 5 persons who tested positive for COVID-19 are diagnosed with a psychiatric disorder such as anxiety, depression, and insomnia. Even after the pandemic, it is expected that the need for mental health care will increase, and as such, Dr. Thomas is calling for more investment in this critical area.
Safe Space is such an investment in mental health. This national 24/7 counseling service will provide talk therapy to all who access it and requires it from any of the 10 administrative regions of Guyana. It will serve as a safe place for persons to discuss feelings and emotions triggered by daily stressors, help persons identify issues which cause emotional distress, and help them to develop strategies and solutions to help decrease the severity of their symptoms.
Dr. Thomas said this proactive approach will help to further prevent mental health disorders from progressing, as well as serve as a safe space to refer persons to other mental health and social services offered by government and non-governmental organizations, such as the Ministry of Human Services and Help and Shelter. Meanwhile, Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony says this initiative can help save lives and urged that counselors provide the same service via the telephone as they would in person. Reporting for the Newsroom, I am Isanela Patwo.
The Ministry of Health on Tuesday recorded 70 new COVID-19 cases from 259 tests, taking the total number of confirmed cases to 5,423. Region 10 recorded 60 new cases as health authorities are monitoring a spike in cases within the region in the last few days. The other positive case was recorded in Region 4. According to the ministry's dashboard, 44 more persons recovered, taking the overall number to 4,436. There are 771 patients in home isolation, 62 in institutional isolation, and 3 patients are in the COVID-19 intensive care unit. An additional 35 persons who came into contact with positive patients are in institutional quarantine. To date, 151 persons have died. Now, as Guyana joins the world in celebrating World AIDS Day 2020 under the theme Global Solidarity, Shared Responsibility, Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony revealed that a 5-year plan to reduce HIV infections will be launched in 2021. The plan will include the introduction of pre-exposure prophylaxis program to communities and persons who are at a high risk of contracting HIV. At the end of 2019, Guyana recorded 8,700 persons living with HIV, of which 73% were on antiretroviral therapy and 75% were virally suppressed. Meanwhile, the ministry will continue to provide free testing and treatment to affected persons.
While we navigate out of the COVID pandemic, we must also realize that we cannot compromise the things that we've been doing to end HIV and AIDS by 2030. So we have to keep on that path. And we in Guyana, we are committed to doing so. Later in the month, we'll be releasing a plan that goes for the next 5 years, looking at what we'll need to do over the next 5 years for HIV patients. We have also been doing quite a number of things, because one way you end a pandemic is that you have to reduce the amount of persons getting infected. And so with HIV, there's now a very good way of reducing infection, and that is using PrEP. That's pre-exposure prophylaxis. This is using antiretrovirals on patients who do not have HIV but are at risk of getting HIV. And therefore, if these persons use PrEP, then they can prevent infection. And ultimately, that's what we want. We don't want people to be infected. So we are going to introduce PrEP across the country for all persons who are at risk. And you will see the rollout of that more comprehensively as we start 2021 and going forward. With regards to the 390s, the first one dealing with testing we have been able to accomplish. The second one, which has to do with treatment, we have not achieved that as yet. And that's something that we'll be working steadfastly on to be able to achieve, because it's important for us to do that as we move this process forward. And the third 90, where we want to have patients who are on treatment to be virally suppressed, that is something that we have to work on. So the other thing that I think people need to know is that once we have somebody who is positive for HIV, but if they're virally suppressed, then they can't transmit the disease. So, you know, that's something that we want to work towards, and to ensure that our patients get to that point where they're virally suppressed.
When in Newsroom returns, the financial, weather and bridge reports, along with sports. Welcome back. Now for a look at what's happening in sport. We're starting off with some cricket news. While he's disappointed with the T20 series result, West Indies head coach Phil Simmons believes the Test side is in a good place ahead of the two-match series against host New Zealand. West Indies lost the three-match T20 series 2-0 with one game rained out, and they now clash with the Black Caps in the first test starting Wednesday evening, Caribbean time. Looking ahead to the Test series, Simmons drew confidence and optimism from some solid performances in the warm-up games, especially by the batsmen.
Coach, just how significant is the Test championship to the West Indies team?
It's extremely significant. I think it's a format that we haven't done well in for a long time, and we are trying to get ourselves back into the higher ends of the table where Test cricket is concerned. And because of that, initially we want to do well in the Test championship, but at the same time we want to be winners in Test cricket itself. So it's important for us.
How are you feeling as a unit coming out of the T20s?
The T20s and the Test are different. The Test team have done well in Queenstown and have enjoyed a tough 4-day game, and now they're coming into the Test series with some confidence, especially with the batsmen, who we haven't had that for a while. So I think the Test team is in a good place, and disappointing with the T20s, but we're on to the test series now.
So do you think a change in format will mean a change in fortunes for the team?
I hope so. As I say, the test team is in a good place, and I don't think that the results of the T20 will affect the way they think and the way they prepare.
Now you have some players that will be new to New Zealand conditions. What do you think this test team in general has to offer here in New Zealand?
I think it's been a good thing that we had to do 14 days in which we practiced, and then we had a 3-day game and a 4-day game. So I think some of the young players who haven't been here have gotten a little accustomed to test cricket conditions here, which I think is going to be similar from where we were to here. So I think they will offer a lot of mental strength, having gone through the period that we've gone through there, and we're going to push hard for them to put up the scores that they put up in the last 4-day game.
And taking both the Test series and the A-Team series into consideration, what would you say the West Indies' aims are for this tour?
Well, your aim is always to do well. Your aim is always to win cricket matches, and I think that's our aim in both the A-Team, the CWI 11 games, and the Test matches. Our aim is to win, is to play cricket so that we can win each game.
Thanks, Coach.
Now, affiliates of the Guyana Olympic Association were on Tuesday afternoon beneficiaries of COVID-19 assistance, compliments of the K.A. Juman Yasin-led organization. Akim Green attended a ceremony and filed this report.
The relief came in the form of a check worth $50,000 and a temperature gun along with hand sanitizer, and is intended for all 26 federations or associations which fall under the GOA. It comes at a time where most of the non-contact sports have resumed competition or training programs, given the lift on restrictions.
Unfortunately, COVID-19 has hit Guyana, it has hit the world, and everything has been curtailed. Our sporting activities has been curtailed, and now there have been some lifting of it. The Guyana Olympic Association is very cognizant of this, and we have decided that we would like to assist associations so that they may be able to commence in a safe manner. This afternoon, we want to present checks of $50,000 per association and some environment from DDL that could help to disinfect and make the place safe. I sincerely hope that this small amount that we are given would be of some assistance.
Both President of the Guyana Boxing Association, Steve Ninval, and first Vice President of the Athletic Association of Guyana, Assistant Superintendent Cheryl Hermanstein, thanked the GOA for their assistance and explained it comes at a perfect time since they have events or training programs on the horizon.
I know it will do the Athletics Association well, as we would be having our South American 10K this Sunday from Mary on the East Bank Essequibo to Edinburgh, where the stadium is, and I know that this will be well utilized.
We would want to thank the Guyana Olympic Association for this gesture. I know that how serious COVID-19 has been and is being. So this will help us a lot. The gyms have just reopened. We've just received approval from the Ministry of Health, and we are supposed to be having an encampment shortly. And when I say shortly, it's not, we have not been able to dot the I's and cross the T on that, but at the National Gymnasium, which we have been given approval also from the government of Guyana to use. The Guyana Olympic Association is not a friend now of boxing. It has been continuously a friend of boxing. And I think it's the worst kept secret about how they would have helped us to have our boxers prepared for the Olympic qualifier earlier this year. Especially with Mr. Juman Yasin at the helm. I think I told him that this morning. We are very, very thankful for all the support.
As of November 1, sport activities were allowed to resume pending the approval of the Minister of Health, while gyms were allowed to operate at 50% capacity. For the newsroom, Akim Green.
Only 22.2 overs were possible in the scheduled 4 games and 5th round play of the Guyana Cricket Board's over 40 T20 competition, sponsored by Tropical Spring Water on Monday. Details in this report. The first game at Everest was abandoned due to early morning showers, resulting in Everest Masters and Bel Air Rubis Ultratech sharing the points. In the afternoon contest, reduced to 12 overs per side, West Demerara Masters defeated Sandpiper Masters by 3 wickets. Sandpiper Masters made 60 all-out in 11.4 overs, with Bhupendra Deoki making 20 and Sinarain Mathura and Suresh Persaud claiming 2 wickets each. Mathura returned to score 13 and Patrick Khan made 12 not out, as West Demerara Masters replied with 62 for 7 from 10.4 overs. Parmanand Duki, Ryan Manga and Nankishore Ram picked up 2 wickets each. Over at the Enmore Community Centre ground, no play was possible in the 2 scheduled games. Regal Masters and RP Construction Legends gained walkover from West Demerara Mavericks and KV Construction Masters. The 6th and penultimate round of the preliminary phase would be contested on Wednesday, December 2. At Enmore, Regal Masters will play West Demerara Masters from 9:30 and RP Construction Legends will tackle Bel Air Rubis Ultratech from 13:45. At Everest, Everest Masters will collide with KV Construction Masters from 9:30 and Sandpiper Masters will take on West Demerara Mavericks from 13:45. We tell you now that the Knight Riders group will play a very broad role in the USA-based Major League Cricket, that's the MLC, the latest attempt to launch a franchise-led T20 tournament that is expected to kick off in 2022. That brings to 3 the number of leagues in which the Knight Riders group have a team after the IPL and CPL, and they will hold a significant stake in the tournament. The investment in the MLC by the Knight Riders group, which is owned by Bollywood actors Shah Rukh Khan and Juhi Chawla, along with her husband Jay Mehta, will be strategic and see them playing the role of consultant to help USA Cricket run the 6-team T20 league. The Knight Riders group, which owns Kolkata Knight Riders and the Trinbago Knight Riders, was invited by American Cricket Enterprises, that's ACE, USA Cricket's partner in developing a professional T20 league in America. The result is what both ACE and Mysore have called a long-term investment in American cricket. Only last week, Greg Barkley, the new ICC chairman, indicated that the USA would likely be one of the places cricket will target in its push for further growth. He had also hinted the possibility of wresting global events away from India, England and Australia, and that the USA would be the logical place to start. Now, world champion Lewis Hamilton will miss this weekend's Formula One Sakir Grand Prix in Bahrain after testing positive for coronavirus. His team, Mercedes, said the Briton woke with mild symptoms on Monday and returned a positive result at a subsequent test and again at a retest. Hamilton, who is now self-isolating, won the Bahrain Grand Prix at the same circuit on Sunday. The 35-year-old said he is devastated to miss Sunday's race. He wrote on Instagram, quote, "I'm gutted not to be able to race this weekend, but my priority is to follow the protocols and advice and protect others," end quote. Hamilton, 35, clinched his record-equaling 7th world title at the Turkish Grand Prix on November 15. Sunday's race will be the first Hamilton has missed since his F1 debut at the 2007 season opening race in Australia. He must return a negative test before returning to the paddock and therefore is a doubt for the final race of the season in Abu Dhabi on December 13. And with that, we've come to the end of the news for this evening. Of course, you can find updates on these and other stories on our website, Newsroom.gy, our Facebook page, and Instagram. On behalf of the entire news team, my name is Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for watching. Be safe. See you next time.